The accidental drone strike that killed over 80 villagers in Tudumberi community on December 3rd, 2023, the federal government promised to rebuild the community. In fulfilling that promise, Vice President Kashim Shettima is in Kaduna to inaugurate the rebuilding of the Tudumberi community as part of the federal government's resettlement scheme for persons impacted by conflict. The Vice President says the resettlement schemes will provide conflict victims a dignified environment to live and dream.
This groundbreaking event, it was the first step in a long journey towards restoration and empowerment. We must continue to provide support and opportunities for those affected, ensuring that they have access to education, healthcare, and economic resources. We must create an environment where every individual can rebuild their lives with dignity and hope.
The Vice President further commends Governor Obasani for his efforts to restore peace and stability in southern Kaduna.
In just about a year in office, His Excellency Governor Obasani has been an inspiration for unity in this beautiful state. His inclusive approach is worthy of commendation and emulation by all the states and communities. His sense of inclusivity, his capacity, his courage to reach out to our brethren in southern Kaduna is worthy of special mention and commendation.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government has handed over land title documents to the National Emergency Management Agency for the resettlement scheme. Governor Sani says over 275 million naira in public and private donations have been disbursed to alleviate the sufferings of victims and their families.
Under this project handled by NEMA, 4 resettlement communities will be built in Igabi, Ikarejiwa, and Koru local governments for internally displaced victims of banditry. Houses, hospitals, and schools will be built to enable the victims to start life afresh. Kaduna State government has allocated lands to NEMA in Igabi, Ikara, Giwa, and Koru local governments for the construction of the 4 resettlement communities.
Locals and traditional leaders could not hide their joy as they expressed gratitude to the federal government and the governor of Kaduna State for keeping to their promise.
This is a promise which His Excellency made during the visit he carried out when the incident happened here in Tudumberi. It's a very, very tragic thing that happened, but the Vice President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and other governors that accompanied him made a pledge, and we are really happy that this pledge is being fulfilled.
Officials say Benue, Zamfara, Sokoto, KB, Katsina, Niger, and Kaduna states will benefit from the resettlement scheme. Nisi Gabriel, Arise News, Kaduna.
Okay, we have in the studio Stanley Nkwocha, who is the Vice Presidential spokesman to Nigeria's Vice President. Thanks very much for coming on Newsnight.
And good evening, viewers.
This is such a big scheme, and the Vice President has said it's the beginning, of several other schemes that we're going to see for, resettlement of persons impacted either by war or one conflict or the other and the rest. Tell us more about this scheme and how impactful do you think it's going to be?
At the onset, President Bola Tinubu, a man of great political will, has always looked for novel ideas in solving the issue of insecurity in the country. And he worked out what you could just perfectly describe as a holistic scheme, like a scheme that could tackle the issue of insecurity remotely, right from the roots. And so what this scheme is all about, what this initiative is all about, is going straight to the roots, okay? Because if you look at it, according to the United Nations Organization for Migration, says about 3.3 million Nigerians have been displaced as a result of conflict. And if you think 3.3 million is no figure, then you could now link it with, say, Rwanda, a country that's been praised for its developmental efforts. But the funny thing about Rwanda is that it has just 14.4 million in population. So if you take out 3 million, for instance, from Rwanda's population, imagine what workforce, what number of persons you're taking from that country and what impact it have. And so what the president has decided to do is to create a novel idea, this non-kinetic approach. And all over the world, you will agree with me that most times when wars take place, it always comes down to the table. It comes down to non-kinetic approaches to have them solved. And so the president, through the vice president, has initiated this scheme. And it's such a novel scheme because it goes directly to, you could see, I saw the report, it just flashed right now. You could see that taking to the Mbiri, for instance, you saw virgin lands, open lands, all right, lands that are definitely got impacted and will be dealt with from the scratch. And so this initiative is going to be providing schools, it's going to be providing hospitals, it's going to be providing buildings, resettlement buildings, it's going to be giving life. Above all, chapter 30 of our constitution and of course section 34 talks about the value of life, the dignity of human life. And so what this president is doing is giving Nigerians there, look, it's all about the renewed hope agenda. We've not forgotten you. This was our pledge to you. This was our commitment to you. This was our promise to you, that for each and every life in Nigeria, we'll give you a meaning, we'll give you hope back. And so in his speech too, the president, as delivered by the vice president, he did say that, look, we'll give you the powers to dream. And so when you have localities like this, and then you're giving them the opportunity to go to school, you're giving them the opportunity to restart their lives, what it means is that you turn the whole of a face that hitherto might have felt neglected and abandoned. And if you do that, you're giving people the power to dream big, and nothing stops anybody from that local community you see from becoming the president or vice president the next day.
Okay, very laudable scheme. I mean, you say the president and his presidency trying to fulfill the renewed hope agenda. How many states are we looking at when you have over 3 million Nigerians displayed across the country? Okay,
so for this first phase, we're looking at 7 states in the Federation, Northwest in particular. And so you have Katsina, you have Kaduna, you have Kebbi, you have Zamfara, Sokoto, Benue and Niger states. Benue and Niger states are not in Northwest, but for the purpose of inclusivity, they've been added. If you take into cognizance the farmers' headers clash that has displaced quite a number, I was looking at some figures yesterday, and it was put, the number of displaced persons, for instance, in Benue State was put at almost 2 million. And of course, to the effect of banditry in Niger State, you know, you have the former governor who has been up and doing, but again, too, he's been distorted by the effect of bandits there.
Illegal
you know, the
miners.
impact. Exactly.
Bandits and illegal miners
which have
that the government is very aware of, or authorities are aware of, and they are helpless in the face of that, isn't it?
And these distractions have direct impact, have direct correlation, have direct bearing on the lives of the citizens. And so these states have been summed up in Batch A, and it's a national project, all right? So it's been started with the Northwest program. So gradually it's going to evolve around the country, and holistically at the end of it all, Nigeria is going to be the winner.
How are you going to do those displaced by war that are no longer even domiciled in the northwest or northeast and are pouring into southern parts of Nigeria? The southwest, for example, you see them in Lagos living, you know, beggarly lives and the rest. Is there a scheme, this resettlement scheme, to repatriate some of these people back to their original homes?
Perhaps not the word repatriation per se. You know, the scheme, like I did say earlier on, is a holistic project. Like I did say, you have houses are going to be built in this particular project. This initiative is going to take into cognizance schools. And the vice president, I did remember in one of the meetings, emphatically stated, if you've been to Borno State, for instance, you will see some of the best schools Some of the mega schools that the governor built, that he then the governor built when he was governor.
That's now Vice President
Shettima remain novel. Best of the schools, solar powered, IT based, and in the meetings when he was inaugurating this steering committee as led by the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, the Vice President stated categorically that look, that he wants to model the schools that are going to be built in these particular localities after those kind of schools he built in Borno State, for instance, and where you saw clearly that after building those schools, there was an target in that there was an upsurge in the number of schools enrollments. So, Chris, you agree with me, just to make this point, that if, for instance, you give a man his dues, you make him feel worth living. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs starts and, of course, ends on the question of power. But then again, you have things like need for love, need for education, need for schooling, and everything. If you put in place structures, schools, workloads, workforce, items that give people the opportunity to come back. You did not tell them to come back. They themselves are going to come back.
Nkocha, this scheme, looks as if it's just all about infrastructure and the rest,
No.
Nothing about economic empowerment.
No, not at all.
After being displaced.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Don't forget that most persons in that region, in Northwest, for instance, mostly a lot of them are farmers.
They are farmers.
And
but they can't access their farms anymore because of bandits and terrorists.
Exactly. Now, but guess what? When you put in this structure, right? And I remember too, one of the things the Vice President emphasized was that when you're getting localities for this kind of projects, that please try, he did beg the governors and say, please try and locate these particular settlements where you have water. You understand, whether lakes, ponds, rivers, right? And that's for a special reason. So you have a two-way edge. You have a multi-directional flow to it. You could use the water for your farming, okay? You feed the water for your cattle. And in a holistic, you're dealing with the issue of farmers. And I did remember too, one of the governors, the governor of Jigawa State, he said as a result of some of these interventions, that the farmers have started going back to their farms. And it does underscore, therefore, that look, that when farmers go back to their country, to their farms and farm, what it means is that look, we have increased productivity in terms of farm, and probably too at the end of it all, we should have agriculture having the required reboost it needs in this country. And ultimately too, farmers make money, and of course too, the power of education, you cannot underestimate that. And so if you're looking at the short-term benefit, you might begin to talk about what is the immediate benefit. But if you give a hopeless child, if you give heater to someone who has given up, a child who never went to school, okay? And then you build schools for such a person. You know what you've done? You've given him a lifelong hook to fish.
Absolutely. And tell us, what's the role of the Vice President in this resettlement scheme for persons impacted by conflict and the rest? Is the driver of the force so that it can have that acceleration in fulfilling government objectives?
Precisely. The Vice President is such a dedicated individual. When you work with him, you see the reason why it is that the President did nominate him to run with him. In everything he does, you see the passion, you see the leadership quality he exhibits, the commitment, his drive. It's second to none. He's such a wonderful gentleman, and so it's no surprise that the President decided to domicile the execution of this project in his office. So he is the one who interfaces with the governors. He is the one who drives the initiative, and he's the one who oversees the committee. And he's so committed to this project that, Chris, you wouldn't believe, when he was inaugurating the committee, guess some of the things he did. Because I was there in the meeting when he did that inauguration, and then he involved the EFCC. He invited the EFCC chairman, put him in the committee as a member, invited the due process office, put them in the committee. And he says, look, that he's not inviting folks here for a tea party. It's a serious business. This is fundamental to Nigeria, because it's just the first phase. Imagine if this project succeeds in the Northwest, and then it moves to the Southwest, moves to the Southeast, moves to the South-South. Holistically, I tell you, Nigeria is going to be better off.
Okay, that's a great hope for the people.
Sure.
But how does the RSPIC you know, align its objectives with other government efforts to address insecurity, for example? Because the displaced people, you know, came about because of insecurity in their domains.
I agree with you. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's manifesto on security was quite broad-based, okay? But then again, you cannot also tackle the issue of insecurity without involving the subnationals. The subnationals must be part and parcel of this initiative. And so 2 weeks before this initiative was launched, the Vice President represented Mr. President at the Northwest Security Summit, where the governors themselves, all the governors of the Northwest came up in Katsina State precisely and drew up a roadmap, all right? Drew up a precise roadmap. They are the ones that are most affected, all right? And so you could say that, look, they know where it pinches them the most. And so with this broad-based roadmap they've worked on and presented, it is what Mr. Vice President, now working for the President, is using to now evolve this particular project. And so it's a partnership, it's a cohesion, it's a project that not just not one person is driving. It's a holistic project. It's a family business, if you ask me. And so no one is being kept in the dark. The governors are there providing the land, then specifically they are the ones who know which places they need this resettlement the most, and so the government at the center is not taking decisions outside them. They're making sure that, look, in each and every decision taken, in each and every structure that is put up, in each and every program that is put up, that the governors are well in touch and, of course, are very, very in tune with decisions taken.
In Sundumbiri, for example, yes, the attack was, you know, a mistake, as you know, brought to light. But what kind of security would you be giving the people when they have their reconstructed homes, you know, and new settlements again?
That's like I did say, the committee that the Vice President set up has the military, has the police, has the stakeholders. Okay. Of course, too, you also have NEMA playing a very, very vital and conspicuous role in the execution of this project. So it's been designed. You have police stations too in each and every one of those projects. You have police. You have provisions for police stations. You have provision for military barracks. You know, to make sure that, look, it's not just about the structure, it's also about the personnel that's needed to make sure that, look, when we've set up such gigantic and very, very impacting projects like this, that we also have folks who definitely will be there to ensure that, look, that there's total restoration of peace. Because if you set up structures like this, you would agree with me, and then at the end of it all, there is no physical presence in terms of security, then of course you've missed it by half. So the government is aware of this, and they've taken that into consideration in marshalling out these particular projects.
What more should Nigerians, you know, expect for the success of this resettlement scheme for persons impacted, you know, by conflict?
Chris, I'll tell you something. I'm opportune to sit down in some meetings where the president presides, for instance, and the vice president presides. I'm opportuned. I must use that word. And trust me, I've never seen the kind of political will. I must say that for the very first time in the history of this country, you have a president whose political will is second to none to take decisions. We see him, you could see him. You will see him, you see the nationalism in him. You see the seriousness in this president. You see the wherewithal, you see the capacity, you see the experience. You see the detailed experience he brings in administering this country, okay? And I've never for a day doubted his capacity to bring, for each and every promise. Look at all the promises he made during campaigns. Step by step, he's taking them to the Nigerian people. All right, and at the end of it all, trust me, it is going to be eureka for Nigeria. We're going to see him, we're going to excel, because for each and every decision he takes, he channels you to it. He ensures, look, that you make sure that, look, he gives you deadline. I remember in a meeting and then every other person was taking decisions. He said, no, we found ourselves in this mess. We must find a way out of it by ourselves. That is commitment. That is leadership. That is the strong will of a president, to ensure that, look, that he's so determined, he's so focused, and you can see it in the executions by the Vice President himself, who is not, he knows that, look, this project is no tea party. He's not joking with this project. He brought in, again, how many Nigerians would set off committees at that high level and bring in the AFCC to come have a look at what they're doing, and bring in the due process office and what they're doing? In a committee, you try to have the freeness to decide who comes on board. But the first thing you're thinking of is the AFCC. The first thing you're thinking of is due process. So it tells you the commission, the seriousness and the commitment that this administration has in executing process. So I have no doubt whatsoever that, look, that at the end of it all, Nigerians will be better for it.
Thank you so very much. Stanley Nkwocha is the spokesman to Nigeria's Vice President.
Thank you, Chris. And by the way, congratulations on the graduation of your daughter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.